Today's show is going to be a real fun one because we saw what happened last Friday with the NCAA ruling, how it will affect Drake, the Missouri Valley Conference as a whole. You can go to like 8 different podcasts and radio shows, TV shows, newspaper sites, anything to hear Brian Harden from Drake, the athletic director, talk about how it's going to directly affect Drake. And it was funny because Sunday we already had it planned out to give away those tickets that we're going to have Mogensen on, the head coach of the Iowa Barnstormers. So it was in the back of my head, let's get Brian Harden on. Well, then I see my buddies, Travis and Ross, they have him on. Awesome interview, by the way. Like, I have no shame in plugging other people's stuff that inspires me or I think is really great on my show because I just don't care. If you should try to grab as many outlets as you can. So if you haven't heard Travis and Ross's interview, listen to it, of course, after this interview. But it's a great interview. And then I saw on like Tuesday morning, Sean had Brian Harden on. So everyone's getting Brian Harden, which is great. Drake is getting in the spotlight. I love it. So I was sitting there like, all right, well, now I got to be different. Who am I going to get? So I reached out to the Missouri Valley Conference Commissioner, Jeff Jackson, and that's who we have on today's show. So Jeff Jackson, the Missouri Valley Conference Commissioner, going to talk about everything that impacts this conference as a whole with the NCAA ruling that took place last Friday. So Jeff Jackson joining the show here in a little bit, but welcome everyone to this beautiful and hot Wednesday. But I love this weather. I would rather have it be 90 and sunny all the time instead of cold. I hate the cold. So that's why I'll probably live in Iowa my whole life. But welcome everyone to the Media Row podcast with me, Justin Miller. Of course, we are sponsored by Kelly's Little Nipper and Stevens Automotive and Sales. Kelly's Little Nipper, let's start there. 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines, historical place. It is a great place for food, drinks, and community. Live music at the end of the week, each week. They have trivia nights. It's a great place. Love, love, love Kelly's Little Nipper. And it's still funny. Listeners will still reach out to me and they're like, heading to Kelly's. And I love that. I absolutely love it. But if you haven't yet, or if you missed Monday's show, now's your kind of last chance because we're going to announce who wins the Iowa Barnstormers tickets on Thursday. And so be on the lookout on social media. Check your email because we'll send you an email first to make sure it's confirmed. But all you have to do, it's really simple. It's the easiest way to win tickets. I remember at iHeart, it was like 18 different steps. I'd have to plug in, call like 3 people. It sucked. This is easy. Just send an email to @mediarowpod@gmail.com, and all you have to put down is who is the best athlete to come out of Des Moines. And then we will randomly pick 2 winners, and those 2 winners will get to celebrate Father's Day weekend over there at Wells Fargo Arena, courtesy of Kelly's Little Nipper. So go eat at Kelly's Little Nipper. If you win the tickets, go eat there first, and then head over to Wells Fargo Arena at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Kelly's Little Nipper, proud sponsor of the Media Row podcast. We love having them on. Great food, great drinks, and even better community. When you go to Kelly's Little Nipper, make sure to let them know that Media Row sent you. So, Jeff, thank you again so much for hopping on the show today. I know you've had a crazy week, crazy few days, but it's been a good crazy in the Missouri Valley Conference, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've been really fortunate this year. I think, obviously, the success that we witnessed last night in Durham with Murray State punching their ticket to the College World Series, certainly the success that the institution that you're talking most about today, what they've been able to accomplish in the NCAA tournament, our women's basketball, Northern Iowa, and the success that they've had in volleyball. It's just been a really good year for the Valley, and we're looking forward to even greater things beginning in 26, 27.
Yeah, I don't hide it too well that I'm a diehard Drake Bulldog
Yeah, I
fan.
never would have figured that out, Justin. I have no idea who you root for.
But we were actually seated next to each other in Wichita this year, And
Okay.
Drake winning in that first round, just as a commissioner, to be able to see a school, and I'll probably ask you the same later in the interview about Murray State having the same type of success where it's been a long time since they've won an NCAA tournament game. And to be able to be the commissioner and see a team do that, what does that just do for the Missouri Valley Conference as a whole?
Well, one, it hasn't been that long. I think we won NCAA tournament games in 21, so we had a little bit of a respite, but it's nice that when you're able to accomplish that, in the sport of baseball, we've been in the super regionals now 3 years in a row. And certainly some of the things we've done in volleyball it's all good. And what I think it does is it just proves that the Missouri Valley and our institutions, led by our presidents, our chancellors, our athletic directors, our coaches, I think they've done a tremendous job of building villages, really believing in the student athlete experience. And thus, I think our athletes have been rewarded for their hard work, their efforts, and the support that they have on their campuses. And we've seen that manifest itself in several different ways, whether it's last night, whether it's at the game that we were at Wichita. I think all those things really support the concepts and the ideas that exist on our campus about the investment we make in these people, these young people.
So Friday, the main reason I wanted to have you on was because on Friday we heard the NCAA ruling where colleges can directly pay their student athletes. And I wanted to get you on because the main question I had is just how does this affect a smaller conference like the Missouri Valley Conference? Because we know those Power Four, the Big Tens, the Big 12s, they have so much money that this doesn't really affect them as much as people would think. And then for the Missouri Valley Conference, it feels like this is something you have to prepare for. And you was there preparation for it, and just how does this affect the Missouri
Well,
Valley?
we've been talking about this for 2 years, so I don't think any of our institutions were caught unaware. It's not directly pay. I know for some people it's semantic, but we're not paying for performance. We're in a position now where we can compensate young student athletes, young people for their name, image, and likeness, and we can revenue share based on what they bring to our institutions. But this is not quote unquote employment. So I just want to be really clear in that distinction, even though I know in the media, it's been very commonplace to basically just say that student athletes are being paid. One, and again, I'll be the first one to admit that may be a minor distinction, but it's still a distinction that needs to be, stated. One, we're happy that the House settlement has taken place. We need guardrails. This gives us a starting point. I think it's important that people understand it's a starting point, not necessarily a finishing point. There's still a lot of work to be done. There is still going to be more litigation that's going to need to be, worked through and all those type of things. But having a chance to at least know what the rules are, and create an environment, which I think is a fair environment. I don't have any problem. And we all embrace the concept that student athletes have a right to take advantage of their NIL. We just want to do it in a way that is safe and secure and positive for all involved. And that includes the student athlete, that includes the institution. And obviously, we always are mindful of our fan bases.
And so, you've been preparing for this for 2 years, you said. So just how is that preparation process like?
Well, for us, it's basically just continually informing our campuses on what's transpiring. How each campus is going to make a decision on how they're going to deal with this new environment is an institutional decision that they need to make individually. But for us, it's just constantly working to make sure they have the information that they need to have. They know what the pros and cons are. They know what the rules of the road are going to be. And that's what I think we've done a pretty good job of, and our schools have taken that information and gone in the direction that they feel is most appropriate.
And so Brian Hardin was on a show that is hosted by good friends of mine here in Des Moines, and he said a line that I thought was really great. But he was saying how with Drake particular, they don't have to have the nicest house. They don't. He wasn't talking about competing with Power Four schools, but they have to be on that street.
Mhm.
You don't have to have the biggest house. You have to live on that street, though. Is that the same thought process as a commissioner where As the Missouri Valley, you don't have to have the biggest house, but you still want to be in there in the conversation with those Power Four schools.
I think it's a fair statement. And again, I think after last night, it even becomes a little bit more clear of why you would make a statement like that. And look, Murray State certainly doesn't have the resources that Ole Miss and Georgia Tech and Duke have, but they have enough that they can be competitive in that environment. Drake certainly doesn't have the resources that a Missouri has, or a Vanderbilt has, or a Miami has, but they certainly, or Kansas State, but they can certainly figure out a way to be competitive in that environment. And I think that's a pretty consistent mantra for all the institutions that play in the Missouri Valley.
And so, how does the conference as a whole just like, how does the Missouri Valley get on that street, let's say?
I think they're already on that street. I don't think it's getting on that street. I think just the things that I just said previously proves the point. I think all of our institutions can go out and compete with anybody in the country, regardless of who they are. So I don't think it's a question of getting on that street. I think it's just a question of understanding what the rent or the mortgage is going to be so that you can continually stay on that street.
We talked about how in the media, they've been saying directly paid. Another phrase that I keep hearing or term is fair market value. What does that really mean in the
Well,
term
I,
of
I
this
I think I think
NCAA
it means
ruling?
exactly the common sense statement of fair market value. I think you can parse the meaning and use it any way you want, but I think what we want to know when it comes to NIL from a third party outside the confines of an institution, if somebody decides to opt into the settlement, that if a student athlete is being compensated, they're being compensated in a fair fashion. So, for example, I'm not sure it's fair market value if you give somebody $850,000 for one autograph. Okay. So that would be a violation in my mind of fair market value. And so the company called Deloitte is going to come up with some parameters that they will use to assess fair market value. There'll be what we call a range of compensation, and they'll look at deals and they'll go, hey, this makes sense. This is common sensible. This seems to be a fair return for the work done or the value or how this deal has come to fruition. Or they'll look at a deal and go, hey, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. And I think as much as people want to look into that and question whether or not that can be done, and it'll be interesting to see if it truly can be enforced. I don't think the concept of fair market value is all that foreign to us that we can't kind of have a sense of when something seems fair and something seems over the top.
So you've been preparing for this for 2 years, but is there any unintended consequences that you are already starting to prepare for
I
or
think
think about?
there'll be a host, Justin. We're building the plane as we're flying. I think anybody who tells you that they have an absolute handle on how NIL is going to play out, how all the things that have been talked about over the last 18, 24 months, and whether we'll still be talking about the same things 24 months from now. I think if somebody says they know that for sure, they're guessing. It's a new model. It's a new way of doing. It's a new relationship when it comes to schools and student athletes who play, especially in sports that garner revenue. So I don't think any of us are going into this thinking that the answer today is going to be the answer tomorrow. We're just trying to figure out how to make the best of the information and the circumstances that we currently are living in. So there are no finite answers here. It's going to take some time to get to a place where everybody feels like they have a handle on this. We just want to do what's best by our student athletes. And that means that we need to be informed. We need to understand what the rules of the road are. And the House settlement does bring some clarity to that.
So college athletics, I mean, they're changing constantly. Every day it feels like something new is happening. But with this ruling, what does the Missouri Valley Conference need to do to be successful in this next era or continue to be successful in this next
I just
era?
think our schools are going to keep doing what they're doing. I think our schools are going to participate in this new environment with NIL and revenue sharing. They're all going to do it to different degrees based on the resources on their campuses. I don't think we're going to have schools paying out 20.5 million. But we're going to figure out ways to be successful as we always have, and we've never had, Drake is never going to have what they have at Kansas when it comes to playing basketball. Okay, yet Drake has figured out a way to be in that same tournament. So I don't think a whole lot has to change in terms of what our aims are or how we go about getting there. We're now just adding another variable in play in terms of the recruitment process. Whether at one point you just needed to offer a scholarship, then it became, well, you need to have for a scholarship and you need to have really good facilities and you need to have really good coaching. And then you needed to be able to do some type of COA or Alston fees, or you need to be able to evaluate talent. You need to be able to hire staff that, has a better understanding of nutrition. We're just adding another leg to the stool, so to speak, of things that people need to have in their base package in order to feel that they have a chance to compete in this model.
One thing I wanted to ask is just what's the next step now then for the Missouri Valley Conference after this ruling? What's the next step?
Well, in all candor, I think we're all waiting on in the next 48 hours is what we would refer to as a very important FAQ that the NCAA is working on, which will kind of give us a better understanding and a deeper dive into not only what the rules are, but how we should be interpreting those rules, which I think is very important. And just like anything, as soon as we're able to consume that information, we'll figure out how to use that information to its betterment in terms of how we service our student athletes. So that's what's next. If you're asking me what the actual next step is, just getting that information, getting an understanding of what the house settlement truly means in terms of how it's going to be implemented, and then figuring out a way to compete in that environment, which I think our schools will do very well.
So I do want to move on to the College World Series. Murray State beating Duke 5-4. Just what is it like to see a school for the first time accomplish something as big as this with Murray State?
Well, it's just like anything. It gives you hope. It gives you an affirmation that you're doing the right things. Dan Skirka, the baseball coach at Murray State, is an exceptional coach. They have exceptional leadership with their athletic director, Nico Yanko, and their current president, Bob Jackson. They just done a tremendous job of nurturing, caring, and doing what they can with the resources that they have to put their student athletes in the best position to be successful. And again, just because somebody spends more money or somebody has better resources doesn't necessarily mean that when those teams play, that they're automatically guaranteed that they're going to win the game. Excited, looking forward Saturday to watching them play against UCLA in Omaha. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's something that those student athletes, that institution, that community, there were probably 1,000 or more Murray State fans in Durham last night. 10 years from now, there'll be 8,000 Murray State fans claiming that they were there. It's that type of an event, and just so happy for them. Extremely proud of them. And, we're a very tight-knit community. And I know from all of our presidents, chancellors, to our coaches, to our ADs, they're excited about what they saw last night in Durham, and it's just exactly what this is all about, and it's why we do what we do.
I do want to ask just financially because I know like in the NCAA tournament, if you win a game that helps out the conference, you get a share of something. Is it the same with the College World Series,
No,
Murray
it isn't.
State? Okay.
There's no unit applied to college baseball. But the thing about the unit, it's Justin, it's a little overblown.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. It's great. The Drake win against Missouri. In case you're interested, that's $2 million to the conference that we split amongst our 11 schools. So
There we go.
like that, and I'm extremely appreciative of President Martin and Director Hardin of helping us in that endeavor. But the important thing, and I think I maybe assume that maybe Brian would look at it's all the other things. It's your alumni engagement, it's your fan engagement, it's your applications going up, it's the branding and promotional and marketing opportunities that come because you're a successful program. It's attendance from year to year that continues to go in an upward trajectory because people appreciate the product that you're putting on the court. Those things are probably more important than the quote unquote unit that we receive because that unit goes away in 6 years, whereas some of the things that we're talking about in regards to those items that I just mentioned, they're evergreen. They're going to keep going on forever. And When you have great leadership like you do in the Drake community, when it comes to the people that are in charge there, this is what occurs and this is what's able to happen.
Yeah, no, like it's crazy now talking to the new players coming to Des Moines to play at Drake, asking them, had you heard of Drake before? And they go, yeah, I saw them in the tournament a few years ago. Instead of when I was in high school interviewing players, asking them if they had heard of Drake, they're like, no, never heard of it before. So
Hmm.
yeah, those wins in the tournament or just even being involved in the tournament does so much. But that is interesting. I thought for sure in the College World Series you would have gotten something, but you are still getting something, but in
Oh,
terms of a unit.
well, you think about whether it's the success that Drake has had in basketball, what we saw last night with Murray,
Mhm.
playing on ESPN at 7 o'clock with the constant, the promotion, the branding, the
Yep.
marketing, just like you just said in terms of Drake now becoming more of a household name outside of the Midwest. You can call a kid right now in Florida and you say something about Drake, they kind of know what you're talking about. Those are the things that are wise. So many institutions invest like those institutions do in terms of the sport of basketball, the sport of baseball. It's the front porch in many ways to your institution. And because if you do it the right way, it can really lead to some things. I think that's why you have so many institutions in a conference like ours who have made that kind of investment.
So I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I do want to ask, as a commissioner, when do you get any time off? I mean, now like Murray State's winning, so now you're traveling to Omaha, which is awesome, but do you get any time to sleep or have a vacation?
Oh, I sleep all the time, but no, you look, you find time when you can, but I like my job. I like what I do. I don't really need time off because I'm not, swinging a pickaxe. Okay, I'm having a chance to serve student athletes and intermingle and interact with a great group of leaders, and so I'm not. I don't get worn down. It's one of those things where I'm going to jump in my car on Friday and drive 6 hours to Omaha and I'm going to enjoy, I'm going to have a smile on my face all the way up. And then after they beat UCLA, I'm going to have a smile on my face all the way back. So, this is, look, it's just like anything. There's a lot of work, but, as someone told me, you're not working when you enjoy it. So I
It's
enjoy what I
rewarding.
do. So I'm not worried about where my vacations come.
Well, Jeff,
My
thank you
wife may,
again.
my wife may, but I'm not. Okay.
She's not going to Omaha with you.
No, she's not going to Omaha with me.
Have you been there yet at all?
I had never been to the College World Series, but I've been to Omaha.
The stadium, I've never seen a live game there, but went to Omaha last March for the NCAA tournament
Hmm.
and traveled and went around the stadium. It looks beautiful, and on TV, it looks like a great atmosphere. So
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
excited
I'm
for you.
excited about the trip and looking forward to it, and it'll be a lot of fun, and excited about the opportunity that Murray State has, and excited about the opportunity. You guys got a great new coach. Eric's great.
I'm
He,
really
he's
excited
gonna
about
he's
Eric.
gonna do a tremendous job, and again, President Martin and Director Hardin, they've done a great job of building a village there, and I don't I'm expecting great things, and I'm excited for you guys in terms of where I think your next season is going to be, and don't forget the job that Allison does on the women's side. I mean, it's you got a lot of great things going on up there right now.
Well, and then the volleyball team continues to
Hmm.
always put out good squads. Like Drake, it's been really cool to see what Harden's been able to do. But hopefully, we'll be able to see you in Des Moines here this winter with basketball season. We're going to blink and it's going to be basketball season, which is crazy. But hopefully, we'll see you in Des Moines sometime soon.
Look forward to it, Justin. Thanks for having me on.
A huge thank you to Jeff Jackson for coming on the show. I know he's busy with College World Series stuff. And of course, I mean, he's running a conference. So for him to take time out of his day, really appreciate that. But before we wrap up, need to give a shout out to Stevens Automotive and Sales. Actually, as soon as we're done here, I'm heading up to 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa to stop by at Stevens Automotive and Sales to get my car checked out. Just a quick oil change, but I know they're going to communicate with me. There's going to be no BS, and they're going to be as great as usual. 35 years of family owned and operated in the state. Like, those are the people you're dealing with. They are Iowans. They are people that care about you and are going to make sure your car is ready and safe to go, not only right now to be on the road, but also down the road in the future. So go check out Stevens Automotive and Sales, 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa. Also, 35 years of family owned and operated. It's pretty exciting. So those are the people you're dealing with. When you go to Stevens Automotive and Sales, make sure to let them know that Media Row sent you. So a quick preview, though, of Friday's show. We're ending out the week still talking about this NCAA ruling policy, kind of what took place, and how it will affect different branches. You know, you can hear Brian Harden, how it affected him as an athletic director. You can listen to this show and you heard how Jeff Jackson, it's going to affect the Missouri Valley Conference as a whole. But I think a big thing is that everyone brings up the NIL collectives. What happens with the collectives now? So we're having Ryan Boatman, a good friend of the show, the proud president of the Do Great Collective at Drake. He is hopping on with us Friday to talk about how this has affected the NIL and what they're doing to prepare for next season and just the future of college athletics as a whole. So be sure to tune in Friday to hear that interview with Ryan Boatman. We will see you Friday for the newest edition of the Media Row podcast.